Hey guys, how's it going? So today I thought we would do a pie. If you caught yesterday's video, I alluded to a pie, but I didn't tell you what it was. And it's a marriage pie, and it's not something they make when people get married. It's not. I mean, you could, I suppose, but what it is it's a marriage of two different fruits, and in this case, we're going to do apple and blueberry. That's what I saw on another video. I follow a channel called Jolly, and it's two British guys that just travel around the world eating, and they were eating American pies for the first time, and the restaurant they were at had a marriage pie that was apple and blueberry. I thought, ooh, that sounds really good, and I'd never heard of it, and I want to try it. And that's what I looked at it more as a marriage of summer to fall, right? Because blueberries are primarily a summer thing, and even though you can get apples in the summertime, apples are primarily a fall thing, beginning of fall and through October. You think of apple spice and apple cider and all that good stuff. Pies, apple pies. Gotta love an apple pie. I love an apple pie. But I thought we're gonna try this, right? And I think it's going to come out really good. I like blueberries. I like apples. The thought of the two sounds really, really good. And it's an easy pie, right? It's going to be. I promise. I have all the ingredients laid out. It's like 5 ingredients, but that's okay. And we're going to try our vanilla that we started making 2 years ago. Oh, there goes my wife. Did you see her? Right there. Right there. Haha. That's Chris, for those of you that are new. She's getting ready to decorate some cookies. It's gonna be awesome. But so we're gonna try the new vanilla, which is right here. It looks more like lightly colored vodka, but that's because it was vodka. I mean, I'm sure it still is, but it doesn't have any fruit colors or anything. It's literally just vanilla, and that's awesome. Matter of fact, I can show you. So this right here is the vanilla I made, and we made it December of 23, and if you can let it sit for 2 years, that's awesome. But I mean, and here's my everyday vanilla, and see, it's darker, but this also has fruit concentrate in it to give it that dark look. It also has sugar in it and a bunch of other stuff, but that's what I primarily use. It does have at the moment better consistency until I can figure out vanilla, right? But I want to try this in a cake or in a pie, and I have it in the crust. So that being said, if you're new, this is your first video, welcome. I'm glad you stopped by. I hope you get something out of this. Check out some of the other videos. If you're returning or a new subscriber, welcome back and thank you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. Comments always welcome. I respond to all of them, good, bad, or indifferent. The only thing I ask is you be nice. That's it. I will give you all your measurements in cups, tablespoons, teaspoons. I'll also give them to you in milliliters and grams. That way, no matter where you're at, you can play along. So why don't we head on down here to the counter. I'll quit running my mouth, and we'll get started on this pie. All right, hold on for me just 1 second. Okay, we are down here at the counter. So this is really just an easy pie to bake. We're not even going to turn our oven on yet. It's kind of an order of operations thing, I guess. And I've done this before, but I've already got my pie crust done. It's made. It's not pre-cooked or anything. It's just in the pan, or in the pie pan, and I've got the top all ready to go. Now you can buy a store-bought crust if you are so inclined, or if you have a recipe of your own. I'm omitting how to make the crust in this video because I have like 500,000 videos with how to make my pie crust. And I can put a link down below. We'll do that with another video that will have my pie crust in it. That way you'll have it if you so desire. But like I said, it's pretty straightforward. But all we'll literally need for this is a bowl and something to mix it with. I'm using my spoon, silicone-based spoon, and you can use a wooden spoon, spatula, whatever your heart desires. But in this bowl right here, I've got the equivalent of 5 apples. Now I've got 4 Granny Smith tart apples, and I got one, I don't remember what sweet apple it is, but one kind of a sugary based apple, but one that will hold up in a pie. And it's about 700 grams, a little more than 700 grams of apples. And you notice they started to turn brown, where they've been sitting out for a minute. Now That's okay. We're gonna bake them. They're gonna turn brown anyhow. Some people will tell you to put this in water, put some lemon juice on them, stuff like that. In my opinion, I think that's a waste of lemon juice. All right, so the next thing we got is 200 grams worth of blueberries, and it's about 1.5 cups. The recipe I'm running off of did not give me cups, tablespoons, and teaspoons for the most part, which was really weird because normally it's the exact opposite. So, but that's all right. We got to figure it out. About 1.5 cups of blueberries, 200 grams. Put those in there. We have 3 tablespoons, 27 grams worth of cornstarch that we're going to throw in. We have got 1/3 cup, 50 grams worth of brown sugar, and it's packed. See how it's got, you know, the form of the measuring cup? It's because I pressed it down in there, right? So we got that. We'll put that in. If I can get it to come out. There's that. The weather has been absolutely fall-like for the last few days, so I've been in a crush to get stuff done finished up outside, and start focusing again on this kitchen, which has been a non-stop. And then I've got 1 tablespoon, 6 grams of ground cinnamon right there. So that's been an interesting kick, along with everything else that just normally goes on in life. I mean, baking, cooking, and the pizza shop, our bakery, everything's been going nuts. Get the last little bit of that cornstarch out there. Cornstarch in fruit pies is just so important to have. You don't want to skimp on that. You don't want to put a ton in there either, just because it can make it too thick. And then we got 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of vanilla that we're going to put in. And then I am going to opt for a teaspoon, which will be 5 milliliters of lemon juice. Just because I would like to have that. It didn't call for it in the original recipe, but I know my blueberry pie has lemon juice in it, and so does my apple pie actually. And I like to add that in there. So why not, right? It won't hurt a thing. So now we just gotta give this a good mix. We can do it with our spoon. You can do this with your hand, however you like to do it. All right, so we've got our mix done, and give me a second here. I'm gonna put gloves on because I'm actually gonna put this. Well, I'll show you what I'm talking about. But right there is our mix, if you can see it, and the kitchen smells amazing just with the little bit of cinnamon and all that we put in. And like I said, all I did is just stir it up. So easy so far. Here is our pie crust, and I just went ahead, basic double pie crust. 1 for the top, 1 for the bottom, and I just cut it, cut it 1/2 inch off the sides, folded it under, and that's our bottom crust. So the reason why I'm putting on gloves is because when I put this in here, I am going to fuss with it a little bit to put it in, and she said you want it, the recipe called for it to be heaping, so which is good. It should be at least level with your our pie. Which it's going to be. I mean, I can tell you that right already, including without the ones I just dropped. But see how that's just kind of all over the place, lots of air pockets. I want to, which is why I have the gloves on, I'm going to kind of try to get this straightened out a little bit so everything's laying flat. Because what will happen is, and I've had it happen before, I will say it could happen. You can have air pockets. Well, when your fruit bakes down and softens up, especially the apples, they'll shrink, right? Well, depending on how fast they shrink and how much air pocket there is for them to drop down on, you could, your upper crust could bake and stay. Which is fine, but what happens is it leaves an air gap between your fruit filling and your top crust. It does not affect the taste. Your pie is still going to taste amazing if that happens, but aesthetically it could look weird, and all that stuff. And for whatever reason, it's like the one time I actually kind of care about the pie holding up straight. So, but we've got that on, and then I'm going to take my gloves off, but I'm going to go through here and wipe some of the cinnamon off that's made its way onto the crust there. I mean, not that it matters. That's one thing you watch people who will bake on social media, on formats, and it's always picture perfect. Don't fuss with picture perfect. I used to tell Chris this all the time about cookies. She is our decorator, and she does an amazing job. But she watches these people on social media who have been doing it for years, but they have 1,001 times to practice it before they put it on the camera. So and a lot of them will use AI to correct things. Not all of them. There are some other amazing decorators out there, but homemade is not perfect. That's the beauty of homemade. I appreciate it all the time. So let me bring you in here, because what I'm going to do is we're going to do a lattice crust or a lattice top on this, but we're going to do an angle. And I think this is going to be really cool. I've done plenty of lattices, but I've never done one quite like this. And everything's going to be at an angle versus up and down and left and right. And I want to give this a shot. So what I did was, just so you can see this, I went ahead and my top crust, and I cut those into 3/4 inch strips. Some people do 1 inch. I prefer 3/4 inch. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the 2 longest pieces that are in here, and we are simply going to lay them across, make an X like this, like such, and then we will start weaving from there. So we want to go like this. I think this is going to be so exciting. And you're going to need 10 of these total. Which one did I take? I think this one. And then like this. And then when you weave, now this was in the fridge with the pie bottom, so it helped get it a little firm, and you want that. What you don't want to do is with pies that say you may make a pie like a cherry pie where the filling is still warm. Wait till that filling completely cools down, or your crust is going to melt. And you don't want your crust to melt, because then you won't have any crust. So we're going to go ahead and get this crisscrossed just like such at angles, and I'll be back when I get this done. Okay, so there we are, right? We have our lattice on there, all at an angle. So let me get you back up where we were, and we can keep on going. So we got a couple things left to do before we get her in, before we get it going in the oven. But so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a small knife, just grab a steak knife for that matter, and I saw how have all that excess just kind of hanging off the edges there. We're going to go ahead and take our knife, and we're going to cut off, those excesses, the excess that's hanging there. Okay, so we got our excess cut off. Now we have a couple options. I watched this lady, the lady with this recipe that I took. She was all about crimping it with the 2 fingers and the 1, and give it a nice roll. I did not allow myself enough crust around the edges to be able to do that, which is okay, because that's not really, I reserve that for just a handful of different pies, because there's so many other ways we can do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a fork, and I'm going to go in here. Let me bring you back down here real quick. I'm going to take it, and I'm just going to go at an angle all the way around one way, like such, right? And then once I get those in, I'm going to go back and cross hatch it just like this. So that way we've got kind of like little X's or crow's feet on here. I think that's kind of like my favorite old school, way to do, especially pies with the with this style with the lattice top, is to just do cross hatches or just let it alone. Either one, but all the same. So let me get this going, and then we got a couple more things to do, and then we'll be on our way to the oven. All right, so we are done with our cross hatches there. You can see those, how well you can see those, but I think they look cute. Now the little pieces I cut off of here, don't throw those away right away, because let's say you have a piece that just kind of gets weird, over here, or it might not make it all the way to the edge. You can actually use those to patch and fix, right? So you don't want to get rid of those until after you get all that done. Now, last thing I'm going to do at the moment is I'm going to take this egg here, and it's at room temperature, and I am just going to go ahead and whisk this up real good. We're going to scramble it, and then I also want to just throw in a little bit of water, about a teaspoon's worth, not much, but what the water does is, so we're going to use this as a wash, an egg wash, so to speak. Now let's say you don't want egg, you can absolutely use heavy cream or milk, or heavy cream or milk on this, and then that way, because we're going to sprinkle sugar on top of this, and you want the sugar to be able to stick. I find that what the egg does is it allows the crust to not burn. It's more forgiving that way, so we don't have to necessarily cover it while it's baking, but it also gives it a nice golden brown look on the wash. Oh, let me get my brush. So now we're just going to take our egg wash and our brush, and we'll go ahead and give this a good coating. See how that spreads a lot easier? If this was just the yolk, it might not spread quite that easy. It'll just kind of clump. Alright, so we got our egg wash on there. So the last thing we need to do, as far as ingredients go, is I've got some sugar right here, and it's just regular old granulated sugar. And it's about maybe a tablespoon's worth, but we're probably not going to use the whole thing. And if you have a coarse sugar, you can use it, like crystallized sugar. You can most certainly use that. But I don't buy anything that I don't have to. Is what it comes down to. Like fine sugar, if it calls for a fine sugar, I can put this in a coffee grinder and make it even finer than it already is. But we just want to sprinkle it on there. It gives it a little sweetness. It'll give it a little shine as it comes out of the oven. So now I am going to go ahead and I'm going to set my oven for 425, and I'm going to knock whatever that was off the chair. While it's warming up, I'm going to place my pie back in the fridge. We've been beating it up. Let's get that butter nice and cold again, right? And then when this goes off, I'll let it cycle for another minute, and then I'll go ahead and put the pie in. I'm going to put a cookie sheet on the bottom shelf. I'll put this on the middle shelf, and we're going to let this bake at 425, which is 218 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes. And then I'm not going to open up the oven door, but I'm going to turn it down to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 180 degrees Celsius. And we're going to let that bake for about 50 to 55 minutes. Things we are looking for, we want to see bubbling coming from the fruit, right, where the juices are starting to form the gel. And we should have a nice golden brown crust. So if at any time I see my edges start to burn, I will use a crust ring, a ring to put around my crust, or I will just simply take a piece of foil and tent it over the pie. That way it does not, it reflects the heat, and it'll still bake without it burning the crust. So let me get this in the oven to 425, and I'll be back when we're ready to take it out. All right, see you here in just 1 second. Okay, so now that we have her out of the oven, we're gonna let this bad boy cool for at least an hour. So we want it to be completely down to room temperature. The longer you let a fruit pie cool, the more together it is, the less runniness you'll have. You won't have all those juices. They'll they'll firm up because of the cornstarch. But right now, if it's so hot you cut it, it'll just be like water pouring out into your pie pan, so you don't want that. So we're gonna let this cool completely down to room temperature, at least an hour, as much as overnight. Cherry pies I know do best when you leave them overnight. So when I come back, we'll take another look at it and cut us a piece and see how it goes. All right, see you here in just a second. Okay, ladies and germs, I'm waiting for her to say that. We're ready to cut. Once again, another look, looking delicious. It did collapse a little bit. There's a couple little air gaps in there, but not too shabby. It's something that has been the bane of my existence forever now, but I'll get it fixed. I know the regular pie, I learned to just cook it down a little bit, kind of give it a head start before I put it in, because my apple pies use like 6 to 7 pounds worth of apples sliced. So there's a lot of apples. But anyhow, let's get this bad boy cut. And now that we are completely cooled, this thing has sat for a good long minute. Okay, we got this bad boy cut. I'm so proud of myself. I'm not a first piece cutter, not by any means, but that turned out just gorgeous. And this is my only thing I think I would do is I think I would add a little juice, maybe apple juice or something to that extent, to the filling to give it a little more of a little more filling. But that, I'm not hating on that. Check this out. I mean, this is how good it set after letting it set. That's gorgeous right there, just gorgeous. So now that we know that it made the kitchen smell amazing, and we know that it has presentation value, there's really only one thing left to check for, and that is taste. If I can get some apples and blueberries on there. So let's give it a shot. Yeah. That is really, really, really good. So, I don't know if I'd change anything about this other than maybe giving it a little more juice. Even if it's just to add a little apple juice or even some water to get things flowing. I'm gonna say maybe a tablespoon or two. So just to get things going in there. But wow, that has got the best flavor. And the apples, believe it or not, even though we only cut them 1/4 inch thick, which I don't know if I mentioned that or not, but now I'm sitting here thinking about it, they still have a little bit of crunch in them. Yeah, that's the beauty of using tart apples in a pie. They don't break down as quick. There are some sweet apples like that, but not many. I'm gonna sit here and eat this whole thing right in front of you. You guys give this a try. You won't be disappointed even if you just follow this recipe and don't add any liquid to the filling at all. I think you will be pleasantly surprised with this. I know I am, hands down. That marriage pie is a really good pie. Marriage is a good thing, right? Yeah, give this a try. Let me know if you do. You know, leave me a comment down below. Or if you have any questions, leave me a comment down below, or you got comments, whatever. Or Facebook. Facebook's always a fun place to go. We have our Facebook group, Mr. Smith's Kitchen group. I also have my business page on there. There's like 1,000,001 places to find me to ask questions, leave a comment. Yeah, I'm pretty much available everywhere. But that being said, next week, I don't know. It may be a weird week and we don't. Yeah, I'm gonna post, but it might actually be the cast iron video and the dog treat video, and just make it like a fun, not dinner and dessert week, but you know, a utilitarian, you know, an equipment check with the cast iron on how I keep mine, and dessert for a friend, so to speak, right? Yeah, dogs are friends too, and they deserve treats. But until next week, where we see what we get into for sure, I love you. I love you very much, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Tell somebody else you love them and you love them very much. They may need to hear it. It's gonna make them smile and feel good either way it goes. It's gonna make you smile and feel good to tell them. And if you make them some of this marriage pie, yeah, I guarantee you, they're gonna grin ear to ear, probably want a cup of coffee and sit down for some good conversation. And there's enough there, you can probably invite the neighbors over too. You know, make it a little group event, have a little get together, all based on pie. Wouldn't that be fun? I think so. But until next week, I love you, and I will see you then. All right? See you later. Bye-bye.